The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 41 The Colosseum. Getting off of the bus and standing in front of a huge gigantic metal bowl was fascinating. There were old Rome-like runes on the bowl with giant golden pillars standing with the Gothic designs around it. I was fairly impressed when I stood in front of it. A huge dome of glass was over it. It looks like one gigantic tower with a lens on it. Very expensive looking indeed. "Hey, are you Toby?" a bald man with a twisted cartoon mustache asked as he approached me. I look at him and raise an eyebrow curiously. "Yeah," I say as I walk towards him. He was wearing a black suit with a purple tie. His hand had white gloves on with stainless black dress shoes on. He looks like a goofy official. "I am the principal here at the Culinary Colosseum. My name is Mr. Nice." "Nice to meet you." His name is also ridiculous with his high-pitched tone. He extends out his hands and I extend mine out to shake his. Same.
"Where am I located?" I ask as I can't stop looking at his mustache.
"Well, child, I have to say that you are going to be in a VIP room. It's the first time that a top chef has recommended a student to enroll here. So you're going to have your own room and bathroom," he states with a goofy smile. "Yeah, that sounds nice, and I don't know exactly what goes on inside, but if I'm going to be here, I want to be treated not as a recommended character but as a casual nobody," I state with a serious tone.
"Sure, a private bathroom sounds nice, but I'm used to public restrooms anyways.
And sleeping on a worse mattress isn't going to make me cry or anything." "I see. I'll make sure you share a room with the best students here. But it'll be a different situation," Mr. Mice states with a complex expression on his face. "Don't worry about it. I'm going to go through this whole thing and become the strongest human to walk this planet," I say proudly. And then Mr. Mice's face went from confused to bland in expression. "You're going to fail. And now I'm going to show you why this place is feared. Come with me," he states coldly with a very weird and deep voice. I follow behind him and we walk inside the Colosseum through the metal front doors. They clang against each other as they slam shut behind us. Inside I saw each room was just one steel door with a small glass window in them. Each room next to the other one, separated by a couple yards each. The rooms spiral to the top as narrow stairs follow them. Just one step connecting each room to the staircase.
I was what I thought hell was like just upon seeing it.
And this floor is the bottom. This is where fights and tournaments and training will be held. He hovers a single foot off of the ground and heads towards the stairs. "Follow me," he states, and I do as told. There are two more rooms. One is the dining room, only 100 students at a time can fit in there. I was nearly out of breath as we reached the single iron door. He opens it and I see it.
I was in one room with a kitchen window separating the kitchen and a red carpet with black guard rails making a twisting line towards the window and then out the same door.
It was confusing to see at first. And only those 100 stay in there as the other students wait in their rooms. He takes in a deep breath before releasing a sigh. "And once your meal is done, you'll clean it and your rooms.
And one person a day cleans the entire staircase.
During chores, you're not allowed to use your powers. Powers are only allowed to be used when during a challenge or the okay by your supervisor. Which will be the most strict one I can find to teach you." I wanted to back down and leave the very second he stated that. If we are here to learn better how to use our power, why are we not allowed to use them during chores? I ask what I thought was a genuine question. Because filth comes into here and thinks that the top stuff. While in reality they're wasting their time and will end up becoming just some regular chef. And here at the Colosseum we don't just want you to think that if you're powerful enough that you become top chef. We teach the proper way of being a chef, and from that comes a regular and strict routine. Meaning you clean or leave. He stares coldly without a breath in between words. He's serious and more furious as he had to answer such a dumb question. "Are you calling the students who come in here filth? That doesn't seem appropriate," I state as I look at him with a questioning glance. "You think you're innocent? Not everyone who comes in here is so nice.
And when a nice kid comes in with dreams of being a hero, he's immediately crushed.
This is not a place suited for being nice. This is a place that prepares you to become a chef and run the streets with ultimate protection from crooks. So don't think this is just some school. This is a prison. And you are a slave to what we teach you, he states so calmly. Now there is the room on the top. Nothing special.
It's just a bathroom. He sharply turns towards me and smiles demonically.
And your room will be on the bottom floor.
Room number 1. Mr. Nice then lets out a maniacal laughter that shook my bones.
Why does anyone come here? You're being more cruel than when we first met, I say as I put my hand over my box. Don't even think about unsheathing your weapon. I ate ink and now have the powers of a cartoon character. You're not going to be able to kill me, he says with sly smile. Besides, in here you are no longer human. You're now a gourmet gladiator. And you will fight for the entertainment of others while learning to perfect your powers. If you don't like that, then go kick rocks. Mr. Mice doesn't stop talking. And the only weapons here allowed are swords, and we provide armor. Now it's not unbreakium or even steel. Just iron. We provide iron armor for those with exceptional powers. And for those who have weaker powers, we provide weapons and armor. Only if a strong student wants a weapon, we will provide him with one. And as far as your sword goes, I'll allow it. But only because Telisa told me your power is tricky and you need that sword to tap into that power of yours. Seems rather weak if you ask me. I was ready to swing Fearclear at this copyright character looking. I let out a deep breath. I'm going to change the world, and that means being here to have a shot at the top chef. I'll do it for me and Roxy, I say with a confident smile. Doing this for a chick ain't going to let you win. But I'll let you dream. Seeing that will be about the only thing I can't stop you from doing, he says with an eye roll. You can put on that little costume of yours as I introduce the other students to their rooms and the rules of this place. Of course, it's mainly all common sense. No stealing or killing. And if you're being too aggressive outside of the ring, you'll be kicked out. But only if you're caught, he says with a sinister smile as I walk down the stairs and enter my room.
Breathing heavily, I sit on the concrete mattress and look at the outfit as I place it all on the bed.
I'll become a top chef. Just watch Roxy. I'll become the hero of this story. Randall, tears form in my eyes as I sit down on my bed. Other collections. About US. Ink it. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 42. The Other Attenders. I walk out of my room, wearing a white leather jacket and some black jeans. No shirt to show of my amazing abs.
Then along with my outfit, there were a few steel guards over my shoulders and elbows.
A nice fine white pointy boots along with a helmet that I found to be badass.
It was a horned helmet in the shape of a beast skull.
Made completely of steel with some amazing soft cushion inside. It might have been heavy for others, but for my neck it was a breeze to carry on my head. My hands had white gloves over them, with a small hole over the palm of my gloves. This was so I could use my power. I look as though I should be the villain of a story.
But now at least I was scared enough to make a few of my opponents shake.
Out in the arena, Mr. Mice and a few hundred students were in front of me. They were all wearing gray suits with white ties. I guess that was the Colosseum dress code. Whatever.
I should be fine.
I walk through the crowd, some awing and others scowling at my appearance. But it's okay. I'm going to beat them all in the end. I walk up to the front and face Mr. Mice. Looks like we have a whole new selection of victims this year. Starting off with Mr. Special over here. Come on up, Toby. Mr. Mice declares on the top of his lungs. I walk up towards him and stand by his side as I look at the other students.
None of them stood out to me.
Some were buff and big.
Others were not.
And then there were some students who had weird body modifications. Those stood out, of course, but who cares honestly? Hello everyone. I'm going to beat every single one of you. I declare it clearly in front of everyone. They look at me with complex expressions on their faces as they chat among themselves.
And when you're all down, I'm going to rise and be the top chef. I walk towards the group of characters and they move out of my way as I go toward the back and lean against the wall.
Such confidence for a beginner. Toby over there was accepted in the Culinary Coliseum because he was recommended by Telisa, the current top chef. Those words made every single person look at me in awe. In their eyes I could see their fear. They were worried about how powerful I was. Fiacla was strapped behind my back and I was 100% ready to reckon a few people today just to prove how strong I was. Now let's get a few more students introduced.
The top students that go in through recommendations are as follows.
Please stand up next to me and present yourself as I call up your name. Mr. Mice clears his throat before he continues. Andrew Aleke. A man with 4 arms and a huge muscled tail walks up next to Mr. Mice. His were vastly different from one another. His top right arm was huge and red and cobblestone-like. His bottom right arm was made of water with the joints and tips of his fingers being made of ice. His top left arm was green and covered in thorns. It reminded me of my parents' powers a little bit. And his bottom left arm was normal in the sense. It only had a strange mark smack dab in the middle of his palm. And his tail was unique. It was bare and fleshy but very strong looking. He was wearing a silver metallic blindfold over his eyes as his shiny white hair spiked up. His chest was buff as all get out like mine. You could tell it even with him wearing his suit. Hello.
My name is Andrew.
And I'm here because I'm better than all of you. And that includes you, Toby. He looked straight at me with his eyes trying to burn a hole in my chest. My powers are simple. I'm able to steal one power from another person and transfer it to my arm permanently. I was caught and arrested before coming here. I was given this place as a last chance. And I plan not to waste it, Andrew states before walking back into the crowd. Mr. Mice clears his throat again. Well, that was a nice presentation, Andrew. But telling people your true power is scary and can cause enemies off of the bat. But hey, it's your defeat. Now come on up, Pixie Partlow, Mr. Mice states.
I wonder what would happen if Andrew would try and steal my powers.
A girl with no curves and chalky white skin walks up next to Mr. Mice. She was wearing her suit and a crimson smile that seemed to absorb most of the attention from the rest of her body. No hair on her head, and a huge nose. She looks like a clown, but I didn't want to say anything out loud. My name is one that you have already heard. So listen up, everyone. I'm here for one thing. Laughter. Ha 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 ha. She begins to laugh more than talk as Mr. Mice pushes her back into the crowd. Yeah.
Anyhow, come on up.
Oh, I guess that's all. Look at that. That means most of you came in here because you fought for it. That's good. That means you're all good and set for the first round of combat that is happening in an hour. Suit up in your gear and come down. Toby, since you're already dressed up, I want you to stand in the middle of the arena and wait. I do what he says and walk into the center of the flat stone disc that made up the arena as the other students run up the stairs and go into their rooms. I can't wait to see what you have planned for me, Mr. Mice. I state as he looks at me with a demonic smile of his again. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 43, The Showing of Strength. I take out Fiacla and grasp him in my hand. Mr. Mice floats up above and smiles as the other students get out of their rooms. Fiacla's power runs through my body as I look around and see the students come out in their little neat costumes. I was sure that they were all for show. They encircle me with their fists up and ready to rush me. Everyone get ready to beat Toby senseless, Mr. Mice shouts out with excitement and rage in his voice. The shuffling of feet and pounding and cracking of knuckles was all that I needed to know that they were ready. Go. Just as the first few students get the balls to take a step towards me, a giant metal spike flies through the crowd and nearly scrapes my skin as it whistles past me. He's mine. I know that voice. That rage and that ferocity. George emerges out of the crowd wearing a normal gray suit. He looked better. A huge scar went down his face. Must be by my attack earlier in the year.
Good thing he shows his face now.
Good to see you. I can't wait to splatter your guts on the cage, I say with my eyes getting wider than my smile.
My muscles in sync with one another did not wait.
The blood rushed through my body as fast as it could.
My muscles bulge and grow as I get closer to him.
George raises his hand out towards me. I'm going to make you a cage, George shouts out as 4 huge nails shoot out of his palm. I laugh as loud as I could as I jump up off of the ground and hurl myself towards George. Fiacla in my right hand and tilted up towards the roof. He was hungering for his blood as much as me. 4 blades emerge out of his left and right forearms. He was ready to go toe-to-toe with me. How dumb.
I grow double in size.
My skin becomes black as my belly becomes pitch white. My fingernails erupt out and new side-like claws emerge. Mid-transformation I crash in front of George. My teeth now fangs and my eyes pitch black in color. The monster before him makes him take a step backwards and raise his fists up in the air. You're going to need a bigger knife than those needles, I say menacingly. I roll my shoulder and get ready to swing Fiekler at him. George smirks as he throws 3 blades at me. I'm planning on it, he says as he runs towards me. Time to blow everyone here away with a 3rd level power. I'm going to boost this transformation to its next level of beast. George's blades bounce off of my skin as he runs up to me. Fiekler's powers spin viscously in both my weapon and my body. It felt like 10 saw blades rolling inside me.
As George strikes out with his fist, 4 blades grow out of each of his knuckles.
My skin cracks and begins to bleed as it stretches out longer. My bones crunch as they grow. 3 fins begin to sprout out my back.
My muscles begin to tear as they bulge bigger.
Fiekler was growing and with its metal sending sparks off I was becoming worried. As George's knuckle blades strike my shoulder I raise my arm up and the sheer gale force of wind was able to send him into the frightened crowd of kids. With one attack I fended off him and now I stand with both feet on the ground and ready to attack all those who stand to fight me. Get him, Andrew shouts out. He was wearing a black torn cape with huge chains around his forearms. The other students hesitate and wait and watch me. This 3rd level power right now is tearing me apart. But I should last a couple more minutes.
Come get me like that man said, I shout back.
My fangs showing and my helmet cracking. I was ready. I needed to be ready. I charged towards Andrew, knowing that he might steal Fiekler's abilities out of my body. But at least that wouldn't be mine. I swing my blade out at the crowd of students. Most of them were wearing iron armor. That's good, at least now I know I won't kill any of them. Just permanently put them out of the Colosseum.
Andrew jumps out and stands in front of me.
I raise out his rock arm and stocks Fiekler mid-swing. He stood there looking like a badass.
But that won't matter.
I'll just swing again.
The wind coils around me wildly as Fiekler soars through the air,
cleaving itself into Andrew's arm. He clenched his teeth but he was now hurting. Just a little bit. I ate charcoaled sacrificial goat meat. And asked for a mutation to go with the meat. Now I'm this. It's kinda awesome. But you're going to have to accept my apologies. Because I'm about to pound every bit of that arrogant face off of you. This man talks too much. I strike out with my claws and watch him block it with the hand made out of water and joints of ice. He grabs my hand and begins to push me backwards. This brute strength is amazing. Now let's see what this power is in his hand of his. A dark-like power courses through me.
Water rushes out of my wounds and ice spikes cover the upper part of my hands.
Now I can finally use this water power from Fiekler. I spit out a stream of water at Andrew's face, pushing him back and onto his stomach.
As water laid on the ground, I stomp my boot in the water and watch it rise into a wall of ice, slamming into the ribs of Andrew, launching him up into the sky. As he crashes into the walls of ice shattering the wall, I turn towards the others. The 3rd level of this transformation is now good. My wounds are being healed by the ice in them. I can stay this form a little bit longer. Nice try, but you're not going to win with a sturdy arm and a few tricks up your sleeve. I state as he rises from the ice rubble. He stares at me and growls in hate. I think I just made a friend. I'll show you a couple tricks, Andrew states as he aims his red and water arms at me. Fire and water shot out at me, or more like at each other, causing mist to fill up the room. This was only going to benefit me. The change in direction of the mist was telling me where everyone was, including him. Plus, with the mist being made of water, I can manipulate it once more. Just have to kick up Fiekler's power up to 2nd level. The ice in my wounds crack as the mist becomes a huge block of solid ice around me in an instant. As I breathe, frost is seen. But my opponents are nowhere. I scale up onto the now solid brick of ice and look up to see Mr. Mice looking down at me with a wide smile. Look behind you, a woman shouts out as a knife sinks into my back. I scream as I turn around and see Pixie. She was wearing a tight orange and white jester costume. How did you escape my attack? I ask as the knife pops out of my back, clinking against the ice.
Oh, you know. I don't like the cold. So I just had to escape it.
Unlike these other losers.
H-A-H-A-H-A. Oh god, her voice is like one stabbing you in the eardrum. I don't know how she escaped that attack, and with Andrew immobile his power is going to escape my body. Damn. That means the rest of my powers are going to have to resort to the second level. And to my surprise, Andrew's power is still in first level. That must mean he can't boost the power of those who steal. Interesting. But I can. I'm going to crush you, I say as I slam Fiacla into the ice, sending waves of ice towards Pixie. The ice waves flowing like water, without cracking or tearing up the ice below. This is what his power can do at second level. Now I must show what else it can do. Ice flows up my body and becomes a second layer of armor. Now it's time to become a beast in the ring. Other collections. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 44, Ice Shark. Pixie smiles and laughs out loud as a hammer appears out of nowhere and smashes the waves away from her. The ice is like water just flowing back into the ground. I think if I can, I'll just show you the true power of Fiacla. I dive into the ice, it just goes past my body like water. The new speed was unsettling as I zoomed around, crashing into others and sending them into a new area of ice.
I open my jaw as I jump out of the ice and swing Fiacla at Pixie.
She just smiles and low HGTS as she ducks and rolls out of my way. I dive back into the ice and swam faster. I form the ice in front of me to eject itself out as I go to the right and lunge out of the water. Pixie points a pistol at me and pulls the trigger. Only for a flag that read out "Got ya" to pop out instead. This makes her laugh more. I swing my blade at her, cleaving off her hat before diving into the pillar that I erected. Now in the ice I turn myself around and with all my might I pounce out of the ice and swing my blade once more. Pixie then pulls out another pistol and I smile. No one can get away with the same joke twice.
Boom. A bullet hits my shoulder. Not just any bullet, but one that hurts like hell and must be strong enough to take me down.
I fall onto the ice and examine the hole where my shoulder used to be. Got ya, she shouted out before laughing like a hyena. And now you die. Pixie pulls out a bazooka. I scatter to my feet and dive into the ice as fast as I can. She's actually trying to kill me. I make the ice from where I am lung out like spears to hit her. I jump out of the ice and see that they landed next to her but not hitting her at all. She looks at me and throws me a thumbs up as she pulls the trigger.
I throw up my arms as if to block the shot.
But all that came out was that same annoying flag. Stop using the same joke. I shout out at her. I was pissed off. I ran because of a man-made weapon. Killing joke, Pixie states with her face going completely serious.
She then pulls out from behind her back a pistol.
I dive towards her with Fiacla singing behind me. As Pixie pulls her trigger, a Gatling gun, a rocket launcher, 3 machine guns, and a bunch more guns appear at the end of that one barrel. Much like a cartoon. Is this Mr. Mice's power? If so, that truly shows how strong Pixie is at either stealing or absorbing powers. As I get closer, I look down the barrels of all those guns. Pixie pulls the trigger again and each one of those barrels shoots out their ammunition. I formed an ice wall, but that couldn't stop the hellfire and rockets as they easily chewed through the wall. The bullets stung but bounce off my body. I turn toward Pixie and the gunfire stops. She pulls the trigger again and I froze out of terror. Another annoying ass flag pops out of each and every barrel. I was so goddamn angry I ran out towards her. She raises a white flag and laughs obnoxiously as my blade comes down. Mr. Mice appears just in time to block it with his hand. Sorry kiddo, but you won this whole match up. Nice, he says with a face of disappointment. My body recedes perfectly back to once it was. Well, my back and arms were bruised to hell, but it was worth it. Not to mention the newly found scars all across my body. The ice melts and floods into a drain as the other students drop onto the ground. Hey mister, don't be upset. My power is to conjure up whatever I think is funny. And unlike Mr. Mice here, I don't have a body that just doesn't take damage. I was just lucky enough to dodge all of your attacks, Pixie says as she wipes away the makeup and takes off a bald cap, revealing what I couldn't believe was a hot girl. She had olive skin with luxurious flowing brown hair. I thought that was the most ironic bit of the entire day. Oh, well, no wonder why you were recommended to come here, I say shyly as I put my hands in my pockets. Rebecca and George walk up beside me and look directly at Mr. Mice.
Can we have a match against him? They both shout out in my ears. I let out a sigh as Mr. Mice turns to acknowledge both of these losers.
Why do you want to fight him? Rebecca, you as far as things go didn't do anything as far as fighting. And George knocked you out with that one attack. I think that you both should rest, Mr. Mice says as calmly as he could. But sir, schedule a match between me and Toby. I need to show you why I am here, Rebecca says as she gets down on her knees and clasps her hands together. Her plea was sad to look at. And for most of the other students here, they must be pretty pissed that they didn't even get to throw a punch. I've made a lot of enemies already so far. And with some old enemies arriving, I don't know what will happen. My entire reputation can be tainted. Do you know what? I think I'll schedule you a fight tomorrow. You and Toby will fight a bare-handed match in front of at least 20,000 others. It's a small-time thing, but no doubt will show you who belongs to stay here, Mr. Mice states with a smile as Rebecca jumps up in glee. Now I have another fight to look forward to tomorrow. The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 45. Hard morning. Splash.
Cold water crashes into my nearly bare body.
I jump out of my bed only wearing my boxers. My eyes slowly adjust to the image of Rebecca holding a metal bucket. You're getting up. Mr. Mice has something special planned for the rest of the class, Rebecca says snarkingly.
She turns around and heads out of my room, slamming the door shut behind her.
I took the one thin sheet that I curled up in and dried myself off. The suit that was issued to me was too small. Damn thing was a hassle to put on. But with it suffocating my muscles, I managed to fight it on. Heading out of my room, Mr. Mice appears in a blink of an eye right in front of me. Good morning. Or should I say, get in the arena. You're going to do the physical tests along with the others. One with your powers and others with them. But I guess for you it's going to end in the same results, he says as he floats across and stands in the middle of the arena. The crowd of students is already encircling him and making it harder for me to see over their heads. I could hear my suit tearing as I walked through the crowd. They push me back as I try. Bastards. Okay everyone, we are doing tests. Which are simple enough. I want you to run around this ring until your legs give up and then throw a ball as far as you can up in the air. Then I want you to do it all again but using your powers. Mr. Mice evilly claps his hand as he floats up in the air. Begin, he shouts, and the students don't waste their time and begin to hustle inside of the ring. I struggle to fight the crowd but at a steady pace along with the others. The thundering sound of hundreds of shoes thumping against the stone, bumping into the other students' powers began to rush through my body, and this was good, but without me being able to use them was sad. Just like the kids who were already breathing hard. They didn't stand a chance against my body. Then there was Rebecca and George. They were standing behind me keeping their breath steady and their movements solid. They're going to be the hardest to get rid. But I can easily make this an endurance race that all will understand in a matter of seconds. I sent my heel into the knee of another student, hearing it crack as he fell down, and made the others behind me trip. Rebecca and George hurdled themselves over the heap of people struggling to get back up. He's cheating, someone in the back. Well, now to the side of me shouts out. Who said? Mr. Mice asks with that sinister grin. I never said you can't break your opponents.
That seems counterproductive. This makes the other students turn towards the teacher, and the wave of fists and legs that followed was something amazing to see.
It was easy to evade as well. I duck and weave through the tangled mess of fighting ligaments. Then it was the hurdling over those who I had made trips to in the first place. I thought it would be easier to just jump on the backs of those who weren't already standing up. And boy, the sounds of grunts and moans as my heel digs into them and pounces onto another. Confident, I stick my hands in my pockets and run as fast as I could. My breathing became a second thought along with seeing the outbreak of fights. Some students just gave up on the whole race and began to fight the others.
I thought it was a funny sight to see.
Now Andrew and Pixie were the real threats. Pixie followed behind Andrew as he just plowed through the fights. Smart on her part, and Andrew was showing off his power. Rebecca and George were neck to neck, not showing a little bit of weakness as they panned through their leg motions. I turned my head around to see ahead of me, and then that's when life thought it was going to knock me down. A fist slams into my face and I fall back on my head, sending stars into my vision. I jump up on my feet and begin to run, sloppily, but I get back up, only to receive another fist to the face. I got up and ran, and I threw my head forwards, and I could feel someone's knuckles breaking against my forehead as I continued to run forward. I shake my head and my eyes see just students upon students looking at me with evil eyes. Eyes full of resentment towards me. The scowls on their faces only made me smile back at them. Come and try to stop me from running, I shout out as I take my hands out of my pockets. My suit tears off of my skin and shows off my scarred muscled body. Students throw their pathetic blows, but I elegantly weave my body around their attacks and continue past them. They run after me with one goal in their minds. They are going to take me down with them. What a pathetic attempt, in all honesty. Ahead of me, Andrew quickly turns around and smashes into Pixie, bulldozing over her and running towards me. So he wants to clobber me. I'll show him what happens when an unstoppable object meets an immovable object.
I lean forwards and with my toes I dig into the ground and burst off.
I swing my arms at full speed as I run. My lungs are already on fire upon thinking about it. My legs are feeling the burn. But with the goal of blasting through Andrew, I couldn't think of anything better to do. Other collections.
About you.
The Gourmet Gladiator. Chapter 46. Slam. Slam. I tackle Andrew to the ground and roll over him and continue running. My body now more bruised than it was before. But totally worth it. The stars in my vision are becoming more of a problem as this whole death race thing continues. My arms are nothing but noodles as my legs feel like iron dragging behind me. While we are down to the last 4 contenders. Keep running, Pixie, George, Rebecca, and Toby. Mr. Mice cheers out loud. I think he likes seeing us in pain. I don't know his backstory, but I imagine he was being tortured and now gets off on the pain of his students. That's okay though.
If my arms won't work, I can just focus on my breath and my legs.
For instance, my lungs were like inhaling hot glowing shards of glass, and my leg muscles were like Laffy Taffy if Laffy Taffy had nerves that were constantly in pain. It was a fun thought. But Rebecca and George were not being stopped even a little. Pixie was wobbling like me as she continued to struggle to run. I doubt that I can win this. But I'll break my body if it means showing those 2 overconfident losers that they're not in the same league as me. Time to use this body at its fullest. All this training can't go to waste, I say as I pound my feet against the stone and continue to run. My arms dangling behind me like a pair of loose sneaker strings. 3 down. Keep going, Mr. Mice shouts out. I look around and see Pixie lying on the floor completely unconscious with a huge grin on her face. At least when she sleeps she stays in character. But I need to win this. Sorry, but I'm going to use you for a sec. I step over Pixie and then with one kick I send her flying backwards towards George and Rebecca. They duck under Pixie's body and continue their pace. They haven't even broken a sweat running this. And it's nearly been 10 whole minutes. They must have been just ducking and avoiding combat. Those marks just didn't go through the hardest bits of the whole race.
They just calmly ran while the other nitwits beat each other and the top students up.
Well, good for those couple cheaters. But I'll win. Asterisk asterisk. Now that's called endurance.
Not a single person has backed down from the top 3.
It's been an hour of them just running in circles as the other students take their breaths outside of the arena. Mr. Mice shouts out. My body now is like that of iron. It's hard to move and my lungs feel like they have smoked 12 packs of cigarettes. And the only real thing that changed is that Rebecca and George only now began to breathe heavily and sweat. I hate to be that guy, but where do they get off in showing everyone that they can run this long? And it's only the first race. We have another one after this.
Looks like we can win this, Rebecca cheerfully says towards George.
And that was enough to get my blood boiling again. There is no way in hell that you are winning, I scream out as I burst my way behind them. I reel back my fist and prepare to deck and run. George is quick-tempered and this should provoke him to chase me. But the real question is if I should. Right now, if I use some of the powers. Never mind, I can't even do that. I have mine, but the others have already left. I'm not doing well physically. My body has taken incredible damage just in this one race. And I still got into a fight at the end of the day. I know I can win that, but what if I push my body past its limits? I might end up tearing it apart and no longer be able to step up to be the top chef. Just back off, Toby. You're not going to win this section, George shouts out towards me. His face kept on looking forward. He believes his confident words. It made me question what I was doing. But what stung more was nearly stopping when I was so close to the finish line. I just had to outlast these two. This is becoming more challenging than the fight yesterday. Damn. Should have done some cardio training with Telesa. That way I could easily show these two chumps. Students, come in and throw your balls. The students ran into the middle, making sure to come in while there was a perfect gap for them to squeeze into. And now I think why Mr. Mice is bringing them all back in. The students lower their arms and with an explosive fling they launch their small white balls into the air. One nearly touches Mr. Mice before falling back down. Nothing hurts more than getting strikes in the back of the neck with a ball out of nowhere.
Rebecca raises her hands above her head to block some of the incoming volley of balls.
But George just takes them to his noggin and continues running. I try to keep up with them, but my movements become sluggish then fast. I reach out as if the air in front of me was a wall. If I broke it, I could possibly go faster and catch up. I claw at the fake wall in front of me, only to collapse on the ground. Hate in my eyes as balls pelt my face. Each stung was nothing compared to my hurt pride. I wanted to jump up and continue. But my body wasn't responding. I couldn't even wiggle a finger.
Now that is just 2 students left in the test. Mr. Mice's words cut into my skin.
The worst pain of the day so far. Damn it, I shout out as tears form in my eyes. Other collections. About US.
That was chapters 41 through 46. The Gourmet Gladiator. Check this out on Inkit. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.